All right, what's going on, YouTube? Let's move the chains. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Go ahead and comment any questions that you may have for the stream. We'll go ahead and I'm going to start with the XFL quarterbacks who we know have either been invited to the XFL official draft and player pool, or some who were seen at camps, but we haven't had confirmation that they've been quite invited yet. Again, let me know if y'all can hear me. Okay, I see some people commenting. Well, that is good. So let's start. And again, if you super chat, I'll get to those questions first, and then hopefully we can get to all the questions by the time we cut off at 6:30. Got a hard stop. Let's dive in, though, real quick to the XFL quarterbacks. Also, if you notice, I got Turpin returning that one on the Chargers. What a great sight to see a USFL guy killing it in the NFL preseason. So starting off with the first quarterback who was at the XFL Hawaii tryout, who I've seen a lot of comments about. He's played in the NFL. I don't know if he actually made an NFL roster after preseason, but he's also made appearances in the CFL. It's Cole Mcdonald. This is somebody who a lot of people have wanted to see, who a lot of people have been excited about. And I think that Cole Mcdonald would be an exciting XFL player. I don't know if Cole Mcdonald would be, let's just say, a tier 1 quarterback in that he could be entered in the draft, but a guy who's allocated to a team. I don't know that he'll be a starting quarterback, but if he was, I wouldn't be too disappointed. When you talk about some of the guys who were in the last XFL, I think that Cole Mcdonald stacks up to a lot of them. But I think that they will have some really big names. And again, there's no telling who we get for the XFL quarterbacks as the allocated quarterbacks and the top 8 quarterbacks in the league. Cole Mcdonald could be one of them. Then we have a returning allocated quarterback. This one is very, very interesting because I have mixed feelings on Cartel Jones, the former Ohio State guy, former DC Defenders quarterback, right? So a lot of you who watched the XFL in the past, y'all probably watched Cartel Jones, and he was sort of off to a hot start in the XFL, and then things didn't go his way in Pep Hamilton's offense. It wasn't great for that team as a whole. Things weren't really working out. So I'd love to see Cardell again, but I just don't know what Cartel Jones we're going to get, if you kind of catch my drift. Again, I want to see him succeed. He's very fun to watch when he's good, but when things were slipping and when that offense got kind of anemic during points of the year, I felt that, Cartel Jones just wasn't it. And they did play guys like Tyree Jackson. So we'll see what happened. What will happen and if he gets a starting role in the XFL. Number 3 is a guy who I think has potential to be a number 1 quarterback for the XFL top 8 teams in the allocation phase. This is Derrick King, former Houston and Miami standout college football quarterback. Now, his game may not directly translate to the National Football League, but this guy is very talented. He's super fun to watch, very exciting, and I liked watching him more, honestly, at Houston. And I think that Houston, it's weird saying that Houston had a better team around him than Miami did, but it certainly felt that way in his college career. And he was much better at Houston than he was at Miami. Not saying that he didn't play well at Miami at times, because he did. And I know that he did have some injuries, but Derrick King is definitely a guy who I want to see in the XFL. Somebody said that the sound has stopped. Let me know, guys, if y'all can hear the sound. That's weird. I'll keep going because I don't see any comments. All right, and then number 4, we have Gerard Hurd. Now, Gerard Hurd is a quarterback and a wide receiver. So this one is very unique. He played for Texas. He is another XFL guy who he didn't get as much playing time in the XFL, but I think he can be a weapon for a lot of teams. He's super athletic. He's played wide receiver. He's been a quarterback as well at Texas. He's played a little bit in indoor football league. And Gerard Hurd is just a playmaker. He's someone who I think you could get kind of on some gadget plays, on some trick plays, and really get him the ball because he's an athlete. And listen, I love to see a guy like Gerard Hurd make it in the XFL. I actually did a highlight reel video for him when he reached out to me on Twitter when I was doing the End Zone. I think it was the USFL Prospects. So Hurd is someone who, while he is a quarterback, that is his position, he could be a lot of different things because of his running ability, his athleticism, and just different ways you could use him in the offense. Number 5, Jeremy Johnson. I want to know if anybody remembers the name of Jeremy Johnson, the former quarterback out of Auburn. He was very hyped up when he went into Auburn football. I believe he was a 5-star, but he was out of JUCO. And Auburn fans were going crazy for this guy. There was so much hype around him. Things just did not work out at Auburn. So I thought it was curious that we see Jeremy Johnson here. I haven't heard anything about Jeremy Johnson after his Auburn career, not even with the CFL. I mean, although he may have had some playing time in other leagues, I just haven't heard about him. But it's exciting to see a guy like Jeremy Johnson come out, and, because I feel like I haven't heard his name. And again, I have to check how much he's played since the Auburn days, but he was never in the talks, apparently, for the USFL, never really mentioned in the XFL. So now that he has a chance to play in the XFL again, I think that'd be fun to see. Number 6, a returning XFL backup quarterback from the Dallas Renegades, Eric Dungy. A lot of people wanted to see him start last year, and I feel like, he's a guy who definitely brings that talent, is an exciting football player. He played for Syracuse in college football, and that was back when Syracuse was a better program, and he was a real reason for that. He's a really good guy who I think would be fun to see in the XFL and could possibly be one of the starting 8 quarterbacks or founding 8, whatever you want to call them, because Eric Dungy, he seems like he could be one of those guys. Number 7, another player who I think has starting status, and this is our final quarterback on the list. That's Kelly Bryant, the former Clemson Tiger Kelly Bryant. He showed up at the Arizona Showcase, and I would love to see Kelly Bryant because there's a lot of mystery about him and kind of what happened to him. He wasn't necessarily bad for Clemson, but Trevor Lawrence came along, and all of a sudden Kelly Bryant was kind of old news. But he's still a really talented player, and I think that Kelly Bryant could really benefit from playing time in a league like the XFL. We did see him. I don't know that did he play much in fan-controlled football? I know that he was in fan-controlled football, but I want to see him outdoors on the real, actual long length of the field. Kelly Bryant would be a very exciting player. So those are the quarterbacks. Okay, Kelly, FCF MVP. So yeah, again, but I want to see him in a non-indoor setting. Kelly Bryant, that is. So let me know what y'all think about those quarterbacks. And now we're going to start the fun part. So y'all comment quarterbacks who y'all think should have a chance in the XFL or the USFL. We can go for both, kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. And I'd like to see a couple. Now, the quarterbacks that I mentioned aren't necessarily a wish list of mine. These are guys who we know were either at some tryouts or have been entered into the official XFL player pool. Again, the player pool, we don't have all the names. So maybe if you're not familiar with a lot of these guys, some of these guys may not get drafted, but some of them could be the face of the XFL team and city. We just don't know. And I pointed out some guys who I think could be. All right, so going through some of the names, the Texan. I assume you're a Texas A&M fan because you are commenting Johnny Manziel. I know that Johnny Manziel is pretty much retired. I don't think we'll see him in the XFL or the USFL. Again, if you watch the Alliance of American Football, he did play for the Memphis Express. It wasn't all too pretty. He also played up in Canada for a while, but things just didn't work out in the end for Johnny Manziel on the field, unfortunately for him. Even if he is the polarizing figure, you don't wish for him to not have a successful career because, we want people to be successful no matter who they are, Chosen Rosen. So Josh Rosen is a unique one because I've seen him being commented a lot on these videos. There's a chance that Josh Rosen could make the Browns roster right now because of the situation with Deshaun Watson. But then I feel like Josh Dobbs is the other quarterback on that roster. I guess it's between the two of them, and I haven't really kept up with that preseason matchup often. But I will say this, when Deshaun Watson comes back, I think that a spot will open up on that team and a quarterback will be dropped, meaning that one of those quarterbacks could potentially come to the XFL. I don't know, though. They might prefer to be a free agent. A lot of different questions have to be asked about that. But great names so far. Y'all keep commenting on who y'all think could be in the XFL. And I'm going to go. Jared brings up another good one. So Brian Scott from the USFL, unless he's under contract. We don't know currently what Brian Scott will do because Brian Scott was one of the first USFL quarterbacks, and we don't know his contract information. So I don't want to really talk about if he signed the contract that locked the USFL players into multiple years if they didn't make it into the NFL. So your guess is as good as mine. We do not know whether or not he signed that contract. If he didn't, he could go to the XFL. If he did, he would still be with the Philadelphia Stars. And that kind of brings up a really great question. Brian Scott going up against Case Cookus. Case Cookus, to me, he's one of the best performing spring football quarterbacks I have seen in all the leagues that we've been covering, the XFL. PJ Walker is obviously the top guy in that kind of space. In the AAF, the quarterback play was a little up and down in the Alliance of American Football, but I think that in the USFL, it was Cookus and everyone else because he was so good and the consistently great quarterback in the league. So Brian Scott might have a huge quarterback competition going into the USFL. So that's another unique position. Going into year two, it's the first time we've really gotten to talk about the spring football leagues going into year two and having position battles. So that's very exciting. And I think that had Case Cookus not gotten injured in the championship game, there's no doubt in my mind that Case Cookus would be on an NFL roster, but that's just not the case. And we'll see what happens from there. Yeah, someone commenting on Josh Dobbs that he's been killing it in the preseason. I've heard a lot of people comment about him playing in the XFL, but I was going to say that I think that he has a legit shot to make an NFL roster. Brett Rippon, that's not a name I've heard in a very long time. Or no, that is a name I've not heard in a very long time. Sorry about that. Brett Rippon was really good for Boise State. And okay, so he's the backup for the Broncos. Again, we're going to have roster cuts and we'll get a better look at some of the guys who will become available And I already see somebody has commented, someone who I do want to talk about, who will become available pretty soon for the USFL, and I think could sign. Also, Jamar Smith, I think he has actually signed a contract with the USFL to stay with the Birmingham Stallions. So any Stallions fans or Jamar Smith fans, y'all are in good hands and good luck because you got your quarterback back who won the championship. Is Shea Patterson going to be the Breakers starter? Because it might be a disaster like the Michigan Panthers. Well, Kyle Sloter was cut, I believe, by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Sloter will be back. Shea Patterson, I'll say this about Shea Patterson. I don't want to be super negative, but his play style is just not to my liking. I'd much rather have Kyle Sloter and a healthy Kyle Sloter as well. Levi Lewis from Louisiana Raging Cages was signed by the Seattle Seahawks as a UDFA. We'll keep an eye out on if he makes that roster. There are a couple Seahawks quarterbacks that could possibly make it into some of these leagues. More comments on Case Cookus. Now, here is someone who I did want to highlight. Luis Perez, recently cut by the LA Rams. That's something that unfortunately I saw coming. It's a very crowded quarterback room up in Los Angeles, and they even have John Wolford, who is a fellow Alliance of American Football quarterback. He played for the Arizona Hotshots. He, to me, was the best AAF quarterback. Garrett Gilbert could be up there, could be considered the best, but in my opinion, again, it's up for disagreement. He was my favorite to watch. But Luis Perez was another great AAF, XFL, and USFL quarterback. It just seems like when he went to the Rams, I was like, dang, that's a very crowded room up there. And, you hate to see it for Luis, but I'd love to see him play in either the XFL or the USFL. And, maybe if the NFL just doesn't work out for Luis, which, I want him to be good in the NFL. I really do. But I'm just saying, he could be a guy who could make a living in a league like the XFL or the USFL and be a franchise quarterback. Not every route has to be the same. Jared brings up a good point, and this is something that I could see happening with the USFL because they're not really, yeah, they have coaches and GMs, but they're owned and operated by the league. They don't have owners. They technically have control of the rosters. I feel like they could easily shuffle quarterbacks around, but I don't think they would do it because it might not look good. Brett Hundley, quarterback, is Brett Hundley. So I know that he was on the Packers, and then for a brief moment, he was with the Cardinals. He is someone who could be a veteran presence in the league. Paul Tyson. That's funny that you mentioned Paul Tyson. I actually know Paul, so that would be awesome to see. Yeah, he's at Arizona State, and I think the Arizona State quarterback who's starting is Emory Jones, who transferred from Florida. So Arizona State's got a couple of transferred quarterbacks in that competition, which I guess isn't really a competition anymore. But yeah, Paul Tyson, he was really good in high school and kind of hyped up before heading to Bama, now transferring. Hopefully he finds success at Arizona State. Another comment, CFL related, Chad Kelly. I feel like Chad Kelly could potentially be a future star in the CFL. There are a couple guys who I'd love to see break out in the CFL. Jamie Newman is another one of them. And I think that Chad Kelly, you can tell that he really wants to be up there and he really wants to be in Toronto. When you watch him, he's got that passion, that drive that you really love to see. Josh Johnson and Brett Rippon battling at the quarterback depth chart. Johnson is another guy who I could see making an appearance in either the XFL or the USFL. He's a career NFL journeyman. All right, looking for some more. Jordan Tayamu. So Tayamu wasn't signed to an NFL team, meaning that I think we'll likely see him back with the USFL or maybe the XFL. You really don't know at this point which league these guys are going to go to. Another comment about Kyle Sloter. And then here's one, KJ Costello. Costello from Stanford. I thought that KJ Costello would be an interesting player. And again, people kind of blame the Stars, I guess, playoff performance. And, he got thrusted in at a really bad time when they lost the championship. That's not an easy position to be in. And I thought he could have played much better, but I'd love to see him back in either the USFL or possibly the XFL. He seems like a guy who could be a very good quarterback in one of these leagues and could thrive. Again, a lot of people are going to pin a rough performance up and down because he did make some plays in the championship game, but he just wasn't at the level of Case Cookus. And to be fair, not many of the quarterbacks in the USFL were at the level of Case Cookus. But KJ Costello, someone who I thought really should have an opportunity in the NFL, cut by the Saints. And honestly, I think is better than Ian Book, who, I don't know how Ian Book is still on a roster because I think that Ian Book could use a league like the XFL or the USFL to truly develop. Ian Book's play reminds me a lot of Shea Patterson, where he likes to live outside of the pocket, which sometimes you just cannot do. But KJ Costello, he is a guy who I think that the leagues are definitely looking at. All right, moving through some comments. So will DeAndre Johnson be up against Luis Perez for USFL starting spot with the Generals? I think that's going to remain a 2-quarterback system up there. Unless, honestly, and I floated this last year, unless the Generals want to bulk up at other positions, because they're losing a lot, especially at the wide receiver position in Cavante Turpin and some other guys who still we have to see if they'll make NFL rosters, but losing the MVP basically of that team is really tough. So they could trade one of these quarterbacks away. And it's honestly, I don't think you could go wrong with either of these quarterbacks. Yeah, some people talking about Jordan Tayamu. I think the Tampa Bay, the Bandits just were not a good football team. There's nothing around him because Jordan Tayamu was light years better in St. Louis with the Battlehawks in the XFL. I just think that something was up in the USFL with Jordan Tayamu, if I'm to be honest. I don't know what, but he definitely was not playing at the level everybody thought he would. Nathan Rourke is the key to success for BC. Unfortunately, Nathan Rourke's injury comes at a bad time for BC. But I am doing some more CFL talk this week, so we'll talk more CFL when the time comes. Okay, didn't mean to highlight that question. Sorry, getting all the comments up to date. Got more people than I thought. The off season is just so slow. There's not much to talk about. Trevor Siemian. But somebody just said that Siemian signed a 2-year contract with the Chicago Bears. Again, you never know with some of these guys. All right, so it looks like some of the some of the quarterback names looks like we're getting to an end on that. So I'll go in. We got 5 minutes to answer any questions, and I'm going to go back up to the top of the stream and answer any questions that I have seen. How are some of these guys getting the Las Vegas team invites? So if y'all didn't know already, Las Vegas, the football team for XFL, is holding these private camps for certain players. A lot of the names, I'm going to be totally honest, I just don't really know who they are. So, we'll see what happens with that. I was kind of surprised that they were doing something like this. I didn't expect them to be holding camp invites after all the camps were done around the country and all the work that they've been doing. Do we have any clue as to when the XFL team names are being announced? Also, how about Kevontae Turpin? A couple nights ago, he was electric. I'll address the first part of that question first. We were supposed to know, or are supposed to know, by the end of August. That's what the scuttlebutt has been. We don't know if that's true or not. Also, Kevontae Turpin is a dog, certified. I think that he really could make the Pro Bowl. That would not surprise me if he were one of the best returners in the NFL. Another Kevontae Turpin related comment. Again, it's preseason, so we got to see it on ESPN. On ESPN. Sorry, on the regular season. I'm trying to get through all of these questions before we sign off. Here's a good city question. Do you think Omaha will have a team in the XFL or USFL in the future? If so, how far out would you think? I think Omaha is prime real estate for a team. I don't think the USFL would go there. I do think that the XFL would. I would love to see an XFL team in Omaha, though. I think that it would be an incredible move. Soon. Here's a Major League Football question. MLFB trying to come back in 2023. I just don't know at this point. If I were a player, I'm being totally honest, I wouldn't play for Major League Football. I'd probably rather play arena football, fan-controlled football, something else. Because it's not that Major League Football is ill-willed or sketchy or anything. It's just doesn't seem like they have the funding. That's pretty much it. Right. Going for a couple more questions. Got 2 more minutes. Here's a video game related question. So we know that the USFL is in talks with the Axis Football game developers. So we will see on that. I did a video about it actually a while back. Let me see how far away I did that video. Video game maybe coming soon. Yeah, I did. That was on August 5th. So we did have USFL video game news. All right. Trying to get through all of these questions before 6:30. Looking through. Randy Satterfield could fit this one. Yeah, Randy Satterfield is a really good wide receiver. He was an enjoyment to watch. think, Jared, you got a lot of good questions. I can't get through all of them. So I'll do this one first. I thought I heard someone emailing fake XFL draft invites. Yes, that is true that there were fake ones going out. Extremely unfortunate. Extremely unfortunate that is happening. Telling guys that they're going to the XFL draft and it being a fake email. That's whoever did that. Truly awful act. I cannot believe that someone would actually do that. All right, and I'll do one more question. So this is a good question that I do want to end on at 6:31. Should the XFL go for SEC quarterbacks big time? So I assume you mean go for the quarterbacks who are undrafted free agent to like late round draft pick potential. And I'm going to expand it, not just SEC. I think they should go for these Power 5 guys who are really exciting. You want to get some dual threat players because there are a lot of really good names out there who are trying to get into the NFL, who I feel like they could maybe pick off. And I think they'd, I think they would be really successful in doing that, especially if you have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson recruiting players to your league. That helps a ton. All right, guys, thanks for watching the End Zone. We'll do this again next Monday, and we'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we can move the chains.